Welcome everybody to Mud Flood was Armageddon. I'm talking about the mud flood that is a worldwide phenomenon. It was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. I want to welcome my big brother, the famous Randy from Wisconsin.
And a
Bro-
happy Good Friday, yeah.
Happy Good Friday, brother. Jeremiah 28 is on the menu for today. Oh boy, Jeremiah says they took off the wood yoke and put on a metal yoke. We're going to need some breakdown on that. I did an assignment last night. I have a new YouTube channel for my Adams University website. So that, and I made a video for a class. How's that for just gross? Let's get down to the farm boy profits. All right. First off, let's anything you want to go with before we start hitting these tabs and stuff, brother?
No, I'm ready for the ride. Yeah, bring it
All right,
on.
let's go. Let's start with it. Oops. See, I almost said let's start with the pictures, and then we wouldn't have been sharing the screen. Been down that road before. Starting with the pictures, I don't think there's very many. Oh, I downloaded some of the. Hey, did you see that
Uh,
picture? That was that video I made.
Bus?
Yeah, the old bus. The wife of the bridge collapsed. She was on the phone, just got off the phone. Her husband was on break. Those six, they no habla de inglés too well. They were immigrants working on the bridge on break. So anyway, the NTSB, according to Jeff Ostroff, got some released some video of the accident that day. This is the pillar that it hit. This is was attached. That's definitely rebar, right? This is not antique architecture, at least exposed. He said that these concrete tubes are hollow. Rare picture of the accidents by the
Well,
NT.
if them are structural steel tubes, they may be, yeah, hollow. I don't think you're talking about concrete.
He's saying
Uh,
that was the concrete. He's saying that these things were hollow, but it doesn't looks deceiving to
oh,
me.
you mean the deck of the roadway?
No, the pillar that ran from the water up to hold up the metal, the concrete, it wasn't solid concrete. That's what I heard. We'll
Well,
see if
I
there's
thought
a
it appeared coming off the pier there at the water, just above water line. They said it was low tide, but I thought that's where
oh yeah, the
all the
tides.
structural steel was attached.
This is they didn't the guy was complaining in the video that they didn't show the wreck enough where so some of the that's one of the numbers of other it's like I don't know, does that mean anything to anybody? That's a picture they showed. Like, these barrels, they look pretty tough. I don't know. They were worried about hazardous material, so they're like, oh, they're talking about the barrels. I
Yeah,
should.
environmentally, yeah, I would think it's a issue or a concern. Yep.
So there's something going on back here, but like you said, they gave you precious little. And you can't. They didn't even let you focus on their cameras in some of the pictures. So there's another barrel. It looks broken to me. I don't know. They kept saying that none of these barrels leaked. Okay, well, that's good
Good
news.
thing they were empty, huh? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're empty now. We were shipping them empty. We were returning them for a
The
recycling fee.
deposit.
Is this the bridge
Yeah.
or the ship? This is this is the damaged part of the boat. That's the roadway above them.
Well, yeah, a lot of that, structure laid on the deck of the ship or on the containers that were on the deck of the ship, the vessel there. See, that looks like pilings yet that might have they just left in the water when they did the construction of the.
Yep. Yep. This base looks like it didn't get hurt. It took off the front of the ship. I noticed that. Oh, look
Yeah.
at that. You know, childcare. You know, come those people they kill their babies because they can't afford them. Because if you're gonna, the way the system is now, it takes half the average American salary so that the woman can feel complete and have a job. Not everyone agrees the grass is greener on the other side of the white picket fence. No family model is perfectly resilient, equitable, or sustainable in a vacuum. I call BS. I think the Lord has the perfect example of how to raise your children. In this article that I wanted to mock, whoever wrote it, she remains unconvinced that rearranging the family structure will resolve its many ails. She also believes it unlikely that the typical American family will ever stray too far from the basic configuration of a romantic partnership in children. What she hopes for is a society whose institutions and policies, I mean, encourage social responsibility and rewards for policies followed, encourage personal security and trust beyond our family and friends to make our lives better when we are in and when we are out of an sexual relationship. It's something like that. Don't worry, there's probably not too much more. The pandemic seems to have accelerated a collective sense of urgency to come up with something better. In order for families to function at all, they need lots and lots and lots. That's just terrible grammar. Of external support from the church, maybe. During COVID, as some of those external supports disappeared, what became dramatically and painfully obvious to huge numbers of people that the family broke down during the COVID-19 pandemic. Wow. What are we going to do, RJ?
Well, yeah, it was quite the experiment that they engaged in, for sure.
You engaged in it in a mocking kind of way with your dumbass mask. Let me just go on with that. The lockdowns of the early pandemic also foregrounded the social and relational pitfalls endemic. At least they admit that one time there was a nuclear family.
Well, yeah, and even though much of it was unprecedented, it was unconstitutional and illegal as well. So there you have it.
Did you
But
remember how many conversations we had when suddenly we couldn't stop talking about how to recreate the village? What else am I doing in Alamosa looking for the safest place in the world for people that, hey, if you need to run away because the judgment is upon us? The nuclear guys, I'm right here, everybody, right here. Families' guise of self sufficiently only barely conceals its toxic codependence. That's always codependence is bad with the market economy. The codependence makes you think about those people that they're like, oh my gosh, I'm living with a narcissist and I didn't know it. Well, they're not going to tell you I'm a narcissist.
didn't know it or didn't realize it.
Do you get blinded? Because a lot of those narcissists really are very pretty to look at. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. We're LGBTQ Plus, partnership was once criminalized across the country. Same-sex unions are now sanctioned under federal law. As of 2020, even polyamorous, it's like Heather has 2 mommies and 2 daddies, have gained legal protections in the municipality of Somerville, Mass. Yikes. Sorry to have to put everybody through that, but sometimes on Good Friday, you have to realize that the obsession with the nuclear family began its masked underlying instability when they changed the computer date so that all of their computers that they'll have people totally addicted to. In 1970, they used that whole Lord Bluetooth language from the Ogham Stones, Ogham, Ogham, Ogham Stones, to trying to say they're planned the computer crash in 2038 and everything's right on fine. It all happened at this time because California legalized no-fault divorce in 1969. This was a hard
To expedite, yeah.
because why does Abba think I needed to be reminded of this so forcefully? Because I think, well, I don't want to go into it, but I did tell you that the whole thing of like, I'm happy to be baby Paco from now on. Don't let anybody tell me I want to grow up. Okay. I'm the baby Paco prophet. That's fine with me. Everything's working out fine. We want to keep it like this. 1969, the nuclear family began to rapidly disintegrate, but it wasn't exactly the end of the golden era, as more people have formed families that diverged from the nuclear family norm. At least we know at one time that was taught in the normal schools. The weakness of the structure had become glaring. I missed it. I have missed the whole weakness to the structure, RJ. So it continues then. The biggest fallout we see today is the child care crisis. So I started out, I kind of, flipped it. Thought I'd shock them with the cost of it. It's like, you having fun being a liberated woman? Takes half of your family, you and your husband, or you alone. It's a lose-lose situation. They want you to. That's not a video.
Yeah, it's cost prohibitive. Yeah.
Oh, it is a video.
To pay someone else to raise your family.
Okay.
Although the government will do it, or like you say, the rest of the village,
Oh, this is a video I made about my artwork to show in class, because they said, pick a sculptor, and I picked myself. And they're like, I can do this with rocks and chemicals. Don't call it alchemy. I'm using, and I explained, I said, look, it's a medical book. Here's my rock. Am I a prophet or the greatest stone sculpture in the world? It's up to you. So anyway, I made a video. I must have saved this for a reason. MudFlood was Armageddon. Even though you sometimes behave like a prophet, in that I don't always understand the points you are making, that's not what a prophet is. That's not helping. I was watching and listening because the Spirit shows me things that help me realize things are in my own perceptions that I don't fully comprehend. Watching and listening to your channel is a strange experience sometimes. Thank you for the work you do, sir. And somebody said, prophets like Alan will lead you to Jesus Christ. Hallelujah. Isn't that, I guess that's why I saved it, because it's
a
like,
road.
yay.
For
That's
confidence.
what a prophet is, the testimony of Jesus. And these other people that get hung up like, I could be the Messiah reincarnated. That's just so much trouble. You're in so much trouble if you do that. Right underneath it was another one. Speaking of the mystery schools, Hermetic orders like Rosicrucians, encoding gematria and numerology, I find it passing odd that the KJV and, in quotes, accepted canon has exactly 66 books. They don't believe in dinks, coinkydinks. They don't believe in coincidence. And that's a good one. I've heard that quinky dink before. That's a good one. I don't know if I've seen it spelled, but that's phonetically perfect.
Mhm. Yeah.
Anything you want to add on that one, brother? Because that's it for the pictures.
Well, yeah.
Oh, there's me.
Coincidence.
There's my old bus. This is where Randy and I received the phone call from Stellium 7 and broke down the helical heart. It's why I'm called Paco, all because of this bus. And I traded a Harley Davidson motorcycle and $2,000 for the bus. And it had a 42-inch screen, rocking 2 computers, 2 bedrooms. It was okay. This person smoked meth in that place right there.
Your neighbor there.
Yep. Oh, just something I took off of my old computer. I just got all that. What was it like? I think I said something like 30 gigabytes. I had so much stuff where I used to have so much time where I could just like film the sun. Yep. We recognize that guy. What's that? Must have just been going off in my pocket or something. Look at that. My bus got towed one time and it was like super expensive. 600 bucks or something. You guys try to use that credit card, you get in trouble because I used to get around.
Unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. I had a rare chance to be sitting outside with Noah, and I am going to be asking him a few questions about something that I did not know he was an expert in.
What is my
So hold
look
on.
at my finger? Ugh.
That was after it was degloved.
Hey, I did not film that.
I forgot that part.
Holes. These are holes in a rock. I think they were for hair follicles or something. And then that's a drill.
Okay. It's working. Let go. Oh. Push it.
I found this when I just went and scouted the land in between Taos and Moab, Utah. They were fracking in the middle of nowhere because, believe me, brother, I was in the middle of nowhere. Oh, this is from the Four Corners region of the United States. I went to the Four Corners.
Welcome, everybody, to Flat Earth Nation. It is a Flat Earth Nation. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and
I think I went by myself.
Part to a rough part to a cave will all be explained in your mind. You can see, this is softer, but you can. So it's a Flat Earth Nation. I'm the one that's been saying this for 5 years now.
So
what it would appear is that everybody
have we been doing this longer than I think?
Well,
seems like forever almost.
Nephilim in
2018, I think.
They would have been able to live on top of the mountains. And we know that's not the case. Now there's the full moon. It just looks like it just cleared the mountain. That took about 3.5 minutes. Those cars will be out of the way short of them. We're many them.
So
We're
that
worm and
didn't
not the
work.
big
It was
ones,
supposed to be
not
some
even the-
special full moon, but that's the uranium building. That's Moab, Utah. I spent a lot of time at this lake, and then they drained it. I remember staying there. Uwa Lake Campground. I was by myself on this trip.
So that was a man-made lake, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. A little reservoir up there for
Yeah.
pumping water. Kind of looks like my art. I could clean that up so easy. It's a little bit of bleach and some hydrogen peroxide, a little bit of acid.
Welcome everybody to Flat Earth Nation. Well, how do you feel now? You like it? Is he going to release those subpoenas now? All your time and effort. Those were not elections. Those were people selected to perform for you.
Same old crap. I'm a one-trick pony. I'm mad at everybody. Hey, here's what it looks like when you run out of colloidal silver and you don't know you have a deadly abscess tooth. You call your big brother and he rushes you to go get some.
Yep.
I'm afraid maybe some of these are going to be private. I'll have to get back. Oh, this is from that place I want you to visit, that house on the hill or something.
Oh, House on the Rock, yeah.
House on the Rock. They have everything there. All of this is stored. Yeah, they stored all of this stuff in the basement of a star fort. And then when they found it, everybody just said, "Oh, this one guy collected it," you know. He collected. Oh, I was traveling and I saw some suspicious military stuff. Tommy from Texas Killer Dogs. That's how I got to Texas. Went and visited some things. Let's do that Good Friday thing of Jeremiah 28. Remember how I told you last night I woke up in the middle of the night so I wouldn't forget this story about Hananiah. So you broke it down pretty good this morning. You want to go for it again? You mind reading this chapter for us?
In the 5th month of that same year, the 4th year, near the beginning of the reign of King Zedekiah of Judah, the prophet Hananiah, son of Azur, who was from Gibeon, said to me in the house of the Lord, in the presence of the priests and all the people, "This is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, says. I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 years I will restore to this place all the articles of the house of the Lord that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, removed from here and carried to Babylon. And I will restore to this place Jeconiah, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, along with all the exiles from Judah who went to Babylon, declares the Lord. For I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon." Then the prophet Jeremiah replied to the prophet Hananiah in the presence of the priests and all the people who were standing in the house of the Lord. "Amen," Jeremiah said. "May the Lord do so. May the Lord fulfill the words you have prophesied. And may he restore the articles of his house and all the exiles back to this place from Babylon. Nevertheless, listen now to this message I am speaking in your hearing and in the hearing of all the people. The prophets of old who preceded you and me prophesied war, disaster, and plague against many lands and great kingdoms. As for the prophet who prophesies peace, only if the word of the prophet comes true will the prophet be recognized as one the Lord has truly sent." Then the prophet Hananiah took the yoke off the neck of Jeremiah the prophet and broke it. And in the presence of all the people, Hananiah proclaimed, "This is what the Lord says. In this way, within 2 years, I will break the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, off the neck of all the nations."
Wow.
At this,
Everybody, this is building to a big conclusion. I know some people are going like, this is just typical Bible stuff. This is world-changing events right here. Sorry for the interruption.
yeah, it takes a little bit, to get through the narrative, but yeah, Jeremiah the prophet went on his way. But shortly after Hananiah the prophet had broken the yoke off his neck, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah. Go and tell Hananiah that this is what the Lord says. You have broken a yoke of wood, but in its place you have fashioned a yoke of iron. For this is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, says: I have put a yoke of iron on the neck of all these nations to make them serve Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and they will serve him. I have given I have even given him control of the beasts of the field. Then the prophet Jeremiah said to the prophet Hananiah, Listen, Hananiah, the Lord did not send you, but you have persuaded this people to trust in a lie. Therefore, this is what the Lord says: I'm about to remove you from the face of the earth. You will die this year because you have preached rebellion against the Lord. And in the 7th month of that very year, the prophet Hananiah died.
And the king Joachim did get raised up by this king, and it's an established fact that here's what the Hananiah, you will not serve the king of Babylon, for they prophesy to you a lie that will serve to remove you from the land. I will banish you and you will perish. But the nation that will put its neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him, I will leave in its own land to cultivate it and reside in it, declares the Lord. To Zedekiah, king of Judah, I spoke the same message. Put your necks under the yoke of the king of Babylon. Serve him and his people. Why should you and your people die by the sword and famine and plague, as the Lord has decreed against any nation who does not serve the king of Babylon? But they did not listen to the words of the prophet who says you must not serve the king of Babylon, for they are prophesying a lie. For I have not sent them, declares the Lord, and yet they are prophesying falsely in my name. Therefore I will banish you, and you will perish, you and the prophets who prophesied to you, like Hananiah. Then I said to the priest and all the people, this is what the Lord says: do not listen to the words of your prophets who prophesy to you, saying, look, very soon now the articles from the house of the Lord will be brought back from Babylon. They are prophesying to you a lie. Do not listen to them. Serve the king of Babylon and live. Why should this city come to a ruin? Randy, any comments? That we have. Whew, wow.
So, it should be self-explanatory, and the reason, is all explained. Certainly, there shouldn't be, any misunderstanding.
Yes.
But it's still, required the time to play it out, going back and forth as far as who of this remnant of people, who are they going to trust?
Let's jump ahead. Then all the commanders of the forces, along with Johanan, son of Karesh, Jezaniah, son of Hoshaiah, and all the people from the least to the greatest approached Jeremiah the prophet and said, "May our petition come before you. Pray to the Lord your God on behalf of this entire remnant." So it didn't work out well. "For few of us remain of the many, as you can see with your own eyes. Pray that the Lord your God will tell us the way we should walk and the things we should do." "I have heard you," replied Jeremiah the prophet. "I will surely pray to the Lord your God as you request, and I will tell you everything that the Lord answers. I will not withhold a word from you." Then they said to Jeremiah, "May the Lord be a true and faithful witness against us if we do not act upon every word that the Lord your God sends to tell us, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant." And that's the way it should go. "We will obey the voice of the Lord our God, to whom we are sending you, so that it may go well with us, for we will obey the voice of the Lord." 10 days later, Randy, you want to pick it up in verse 7?
Well, they just read their own sentence before.
Yep, they said it. They did. Yep. I hope everybody else
After
got
10
that too.
days, the
Yeah.
word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, and he summoned Johanan, son of Karesh, all the commanders of the forces who were with him, and all the people from the least to the greatest. Jeremiah told them, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, to whom you sent me to present your petition. If you will indeed stay in this land, then I will build you up and not tear you down. I will plant you and not uproot you, for I will relent of the disaster I have brought upon you. Do not be afraid of the king of Babylon, whom you now fear. Do not be afraid of him, declares the Lord, for I am with you to save you and deliver you from him. And I will show you compassion, and he will have compassion on you and restore you to your own land."
Exodus
But if you,
38, he will have compassion on whom he has compassion. Sorry to interrupt that, Randy, but with that
well,
news,
but even Nebuchadnezzar would
yes,
also
he
have
has so
compassion.
much compassion on Nebuchadnezzar.
But if you say, "We will not stay in this land," and you thus disobey the voice of the Lord your God, and if you say, "No, but we will go to the land of Egypt and live there, where we will not see war or hear the sound of the ram's horn or hunger for bread," then hear the word of the Lord, O remnant of Judah. This is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, says. If you are determined to go to Egypt and reside there, then the sword you fear will overtake you there, and the famine you dread will follow on your heels into Egypt, and you will die there. So all who resolve to go to Egypt to reside there will die by the sword and famine and plague. Not one of them will survive or escape the
Wow,
disaster I will bring upon them.
that's not very many.
Yeah, for survivors,
Yeah, not.
zero. For this is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, says: Just as my anger and wrath were poured out on the residents of Jerusalem, so will my wrath be poured out on you if you go to Egypt. You will become an object of cursing and horror and vilification and disgrace, and you will never see this place again. The Lord has told you, O remnant of Judah, do not go to Egypt. Know for sure that I have warned you today, for you have deceived yourselves by sending me to the Lord your God, saying, "Pray to the Lord our God on our behalf." And as
Yeah,
for all that
yeah.
the Lord our God says, tell it to us, and we will do it.
People tell you that, but they don't mean it. I know.
For I have told you today, but you have not obeyed the voice of the Lord your God in all he has sent me to tell you. Now, therefore, know for sure that by sword and famine and plague you will die in the place where you desire to go to reside.
Okay, so don't start reading it. I want you to pick this up in just a minute. We have to.
But why? Why do the Jewish people call it the Star of David? It is said that it used to be a But why? Why do the Jewish people call it the Star of David? It is said that it used to be a representation of a shield or
I'm
a
going to do it,
protection
Randy. I'm going to do it. Should I?
Okay.
from God during battle for David. So David used this shield that's represented by this star to protect him. But it wasn't clear if it was
That sounds extra biblical. Glad I didn't kick it. Go ahead, brother. Was that
When
interesting or was that a distraction?
Well, it was, yeah, just I don't know, a pit stop there or something.
Okay.
When Jeremiah had finished telling all the people all the words of the Lord their God, everything that the Lord had sent him to say, Azaziah, son of Hoshaiah, Jonathan, son of Kareah, and all the arrogant men said to Jeremiah, "You are lying. The Lord our God has not sent you to say, you must not go to Egypt to reside there. Rather, Barak, son of Neriah, is inciting you against us to deliver us into the hands of the Chaldeans, so that they may put us to death or exile us to Babylon."
Oh, blame Baruch. Yeah, sure.
So Johanna, son of Karish, and all the commanders of the forces disobeyed the command of the Lord to stay in the land of Judah. Instead, Johanna, son of Karish, and all the commanders of the forces took the whole remnant of Judah, those who had returned to the land of Judah from all the nations to which they had been scattered, the men, the women, the children, the king's daughters, and everyone whom Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, had allowed to remain with Gedaliah, son of Achram, the son of Shapram, as well as Jeremiah the prophet, and Barak, son of Neriah.
So Baruch, he's the guy that actually does the writing for Jeremiah. You know, he's his scribe. And he gets questioned harsh. Did you write this book? I wrote this book. How'd you write this book? Jeremiah told me what to write in the book. And he goes like, so you wrote it? Yeah, I wrote it. He told me what to write. I wrote it. He goes like, throw it in the river. Remember, all that gets weird, man.
Yep.
So I just want to emphasize again. Did you catch what he was just saying here? All these commanders, these guys took the whole remnant of Judah, and I believe it's back to the United States. They took them back here, returned to the land of Judah, to Egypt, the place where they were sacrificing their children in the river, and they were happy to not be slaves, but they just couldn't. They always wanted to go back there, and so they did it. And finally, they got what they wanted. Okay. Anything you want to add about that one?
Well, yeah, it was. Well, no, you don't really need to add much. We know how it ends, and but yeah, they were determined, to disobey. But that
Okay.
was, it didn't just happen because of they in their hearts to begin with. They were not going to be loyal to God, for sure.
Wouldn't you like to be the person that, like according, like finds the thing in verse 8 with a note from Jeremiah? Hey, these are these large stones I buried in the clay and the brick pavements, so that you can prove the Bible later. I don't think that it's
Yeah.
going to be that easy. I think we should just at least knock out through verse 15.
Beginning with 7 here.
Yeah, por favor.
So they entered the land of Egypt because they did not obey the voice of the Lord. And they went as far as
Tefani.
Stephanis.
Tepanis.
Then
Okay.
the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah at Stephanis in the sight of the Jews. Pick up some large stones and bury them in the clay of the brick pavement at the entrance to Pharaoh's palace in Stephanis.
Man, I'd sure like
Then,
to find him.
then tell them that this is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, says. I will send for my servant Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and I will set his throne over these stones that I have embedded, and he will spread his royal pavilion over them. He will come and strike down the land of Egypt, bringing death to those destined for death,
Wow.
captivity to those destined for captivity, and the sword to those destined for the sword.
That sounds like the book
I,
of Revelation.
I will kindle a fire in the temples of the gods of Egypt, and Nebuchadnezzar will burn those temples and take their gods as captives. So he will wrap himself with the land of Egypt as a shepherd wraps himself in his garment, and he will depart from there unscathed. He will demolish the sacred pillars of the temple of the sun in the land of Egypt, and he will burn down the temples of the gods of Egypt.
I've got to admit that last, 12 and 13 are confusing. I will kindle a fire where? In the temples of the gods of Egypt. And Nebuchadnezzar will burn those temples and take their gods as captives. Okay, so he, Nebuchadnezzar, will wrap himself in the land of Egypt as a shepherd wraps himself in a garment. And okay, he, Nebuchadnezzar, will depart from there completely unscathed. It's Nebuchadnezzar who will demolish the sacred pillars of the temple of the sun. Okay, well, that sounds like a big deal. So Nebuchadnezzar himself, or the people in charge, he's going to go like, get rid of those sacred temples of the
Yeah,
temples
as
of the
far as
sun. The temple of the sun sounds like a something the Egyptians would go like, that's important. The temple of the sun, the pillars of the temple of the sun. That's a big deal. Don't let him get it. I
but
get it.
here, Nebuchadnezzar here is as much of a servant of the Lord as Jeremiah is.
Yeah,
And he's
they're
going
definitely.
to do the Lord's will exactly how the Lord wants it carried out.
Right. It looked like judgment. It looks like judgment was on the menu. All right.
Yeah, it was a heaping helping of judgment for sure.
So I wasn't sure, because I got this in my sleep last night. And I had to get up and, because I listen to the Bible all night, and I got woken up and I heard that part about Hananiah prophet, you have spoken against the city. It's like, oh, you're supposed to care if he speaks against the Lord, Hananiah. So I wanted to find out what chapter it was in. So I looked up Hananiah, and there they are in the Old Testament. I mentioned this to you before, that I don't like that the Wikipedia called Ananias of Damascus a Hellenized Jewish mystic. I don't even know what that means, but I wouldn't want to be called a mystic. Shaman. Those are terms that people think of as negative. So they're bad. Ananias was a good Christian guy. He shouldn't have been called a mystic. This is his page. Here it says he's a disciple of Jesus at Damascus. So I might be making a mountain out of a molehill, but it just seemed derogatory. Everybody's picking on everything.
Yeah, you'd probably be better off going with if there is any biblical narrative or commentary versus some other source, probably.
What in the world kind of floor is that? So this is supposedly be where, if any picture ever screamed out that this is only the top of this building, the very tippy top, that's what I'm seeing with this picture of what they're saying is where the chapel at Zoravar Church somewhere where Ananias is buried or something. That's one of those ones where they would go like that's the top of a
Like a
building,
mausoleum, is it?
something, you know. This is my project. It was supposed to be between 5 or 6 minutes, but I can't keep it. I guess I don't know how to make really short videos too much. So you can let
That
me
was
know.
9 minutes. Yeah, 9 minutes.
This is a video about history, and this might be a test because I need to. This is worth 200 points. Learn how to share the screen. All right, so here we go. The entire screen going to be shared. And I'll be able to break down what I'm going to show here is there's a story about a cloud city from the Star Wars movie franchise that we've all heard. And well, Lando in this scene says he made a deal that will keep the Empire out of here forever. Of course, they were betrayed, and he's in the Cloud City. Cloud City. People in Colorado associate that with Leadville, Colorado, the highest city in the United States. At some points within the city limits, 2 miles high, and yet unbelievable. It was the second most populated city in Colorado, barely behind Denver in the 1880s and 1890s because of, well, like Cloud City in the Star Wars, they not only had silver but other, lead, and lead was used for steam power, which the Industrial Revolution needed. I'd like to emphasize that more for you mudflooders is the importance of lead. All of those pistons, because lead is graphite, it's a lubricant. The pistons of the steam engines, a lot of water involved. It wouldn't work unless they were well lubricated, and that was with lead, which made it a very valuable product until they just found tons of it somewhere. But they also,
it wasn't just an oil-based paint ingredient.
exactly, but lead in paint actually helps, and there is some speculation. I do not know it. I heard this over 7-8 years ago of a guy who was saying that the reason that they banned lead in paint because it's not enough to kill anybody was because radio frequencies for their AM radios weren't penetrating the lead paint, and that they might have been providing a type of a semi-Faraday cage. So get rid of lead paint. But there's some highly speculative thinking going on there.
Yep.
It lubricated their pistons, and it was very valuable. And they found other things there equivalent to finding uranium and using and discovering its properties in the 1930s. So history would tell us. So Leadville City, but the brutal reality, and I don't want to, of working in the mines in Leadville, the average worker that for Colorado, everywhere, it was horrendous. And that's me and Randy right there. I'm the one having to do all the hard work. How they made their living.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just, it would have been unimaginable for us today. And yet, when you hear about Leadville down to 2,603.
I've been there. It's cool. It's
Again, gold was found there. Everybody rushed there. I'm used to making videos that are an hour long. Hurry this up. So found it very quickly. Horace Tabor usually gets most of the credit, and he was left high and dry after living the high life.
we can take our time and read some of that. You know, the town was built on a desolate flat land below the tree line. The first miners lived in a rough tented camp, like the sons of Nebor. Maybe they lived in camps and didn't drink wine, or lived in tents, camps of tents, and didn't drink wine. But I should have left that go. First miners lived in a rough tented camp near the silver deposits in California Gulch. Will you read this for me, Randy?
But even that, you're only looking at, what, 4 or 5 months out of the year where
Yeah, we can
tent living.
you can make it in the winter, man. I mean, I live at 1,544 feet. It's, that's over a mile and a half high. You get by in the winter. You just wait for the sun to shine, but we're in a peculiar.
It wouldn't be
location.
easy. Right.
Yeah, they called it Slab Town. Let me just hit the highlights. So 3 years later, by 1880, Tabor and Myers' new town, Mayor who? Mayor Guggenheim had gas lighting, water mains, 28 miles of streets, 5 churches, 3 hospitals, 6 banks, and a school to hold 1,100 students. It sounds like the school I worked at and was the athletic director at Christian Liberty Academy, 502 West Euclid Avenue, Arlington Heights, Illinois. Write to them and get a free brochure for homeschooling your students. Many buildings were constructed with bricks hauled in by wagons. That just seems impossible.
Hauled in from where?
Denver, I guess. There's no rail, because
they had clay in
that's
Denver.
Impossible. You can't. It's closed down for 5 months of the year, not because the people are starving or can't do their work in the mines. It's just that the roads are closed. The roads get closed. They still get closed. So that's a lot, 1,100 students, 6 banks, 5 churches, and a synagogue. They didn't mention that. Early in 1878, Meyer, along with Leadville's pioneer smelter, Edwin Harrison, after whom the famed Harrison Avenue is named, Tabor established a post office, telegraph office. He became the postmaster, and it became the second most populous city in the whole state of Colorado.
But Meyer Guggenheim,
There's the
who became one of the 6th rich people in the United States, lived here too. And there was more than
there might have been a slight edit there because how sometimes you have those Freudian slips. You say something you don't mean, and you don't want to turn it in on assignment.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you might, you say, I heard this one Freudian slip where a guy meant to tell, he had his wife that we're out to dinner and he meant to say, pass the salt. And instead he said, I want to divorce, you stupid, hideous hag. That's like an example of a Freudian slip. Look at this town. Hauled it in by bricks, by wagons.
Okay.
And how did they?
So.
Everything looks nice, but
it's a kit town.
You know what they're like, and look at the size of this town. It just is out of place with what we.
That's a Star Wars
16,000. And again, Meyer Guggenheim,
Found that light that has the
there was
ultraviolet.
something called we'll look at it, this silver crash or the panic of 1893. So I guess I should, again, they try to, the founder married a younger, beautiful woman and she lost it all. They all lost it all in Leadville, except a few people, because this is one of those rare minerals that they needed, along with the lead, like why I called it, and compare it to Cloud City. Doc Holliday was there, Poker Alice, and they just barely somewhere in here. And there it is. It's the Guggenheim and the Guggenheim family started out in Leadville, mining and smelting. And they made so much money on, I believe it had to be insider trading. And they were given the heads up. I'll show that Peggy Guggenheim started the modern art movement, which took away from, I think, the beauty of the arts that were being used in what the disgraced communist countries of that time, where they drew people that looked like people, and that was mocked by the Guggenheims.
That was kind of I was going to make some comment about, I showed that word coinky dinks earlier, but it just seems so much funnier then than it does now. So, I don't believe in the coinky dinks that it was just an accident that Meyer Guggenheim was the only one who got out of Leadville with a pocket full of money. There. I feel better now.
As we can see from the Federal Reserve's website, that the Gilded Age, thin golden layer of veneer, there were panics in the market. Following the panic of 1893, that's when they had banking associations.
I should probably keep notes on
Secretary
that.
of the Treasury had to get involved. And if there anything that slowed down,
we got a little time to read
started
this. Underneath it, it says over the next 14 years after the panic of 1893, when Meyer Guggenheim staked his claim and they raped Colorado one more time, within the 14 years, politicians, bureaucrats, they founded the American bankers. They acted like they were trying to bust up the monopolies, but their effort was done. Capitalism was going to promote modern art and pay money for it and laugh at the people that were still drawing normal people in Russia trying to make a living, because they had been the ones chosen to be like, you'll live under communism. And the other ones were chosen to, you'll live under this thing. There's no good guys. We all just are stuck waking up in the morning going like, oh man, I got to get my wicked, deceitful heart subjected to Jesus Christ because, oh no, a lot of people go like, what if he's real? Things like that, and you got to get it. Practice it and you'll see he's real. You'll know. I think. Pretty sure that's how it works.
Fighting the monopolies, it came because of the underhanded crookedness that allowed someone who started.
Hey, Goog looks like Gog. Gog and Magoggenheim. I am not like more, I'm not buzzed. I'm not high. That's real. I'm just in a good mood today because I've had a lot of, confirmations from the Lord, and trust me, it's good to be a Paco right now.
Town in 1887 and sold at the top of the market, and to this day remain one of the wealthiest families in the
Look
world.
more into that town here, that place in Switzerland that he came from. What was it? Langu? I just missed it by a second. That's suspicious. Langu, Arganu. Yeah, we pronounce some words wrong. So what? Switzerland. They even got
Yeah.
that down, you know. So he's one of those Swiss Ashkenazi Jews. I don't think they've really been neutral all these centuries. I'm getting suspicious of those guys. In the world, all due to selling. Uh-oh. At the top of the market. Well, it's gone from 52 degrees to 38 degrees since that however long ago it was. I told you it was 52 degrees. And everybody else was left holding the bag. The modern woman, the founder of the. See, there's no way. How can you tell somebody's Ashkenazi Jew? I mean, to me, she just looks like, you know, one of those models wearing a cellophane dress, trying to, you know. I don't know. I mean, you can't just look at somebody and go, she's Ashkenazi Jew, or she's Jewish, or he's Jewish, or they're Jewish. You can't really tell by looking at them. I mean, don't go stereotyping some of those old men. I mean, yeah, but most Jews just look like, you know, they're regular people. They're humans. You can be saved. Jackson Pollock, drip paint on a canvas, and she'll give you 300. She paid a lot of money to have sex with Jackson Pollock. And he turned out to be a spy. For you and tell you that it's beautiful and that's what art should be. That is a great. It's all a giant setup. Got her money early when the suspicious sinking of the Titanic happened. That so many, I guess, maybe the equivalent of 422. You know, the 422 Buick Rally Sport with that engine size and everything. You know, these numbers are no coincidences, although I am not an expert in gematria and don't have time to get into it. So don't send me any. What do we know? We don't know anything about gematria, right?
This is what you're told?
Some of those things like are pretty scary. What if somebody ever does gematria on all the aliases and not aliases, pseudonyms I've used, you know, Salt Paco. I mean, what that's like my 10th name. I'd like somebody to do it. It'd be fun. People who didn't want to go along with what was going along happened. I'm saying don't accept the public view of what's been happening. The panic of 18. This is an assignment at university. These people don't know what to think, man. I've at least got my advisor, the world-renowned PhD, Dr. Richard Lubrick, the guy who, when they wanted to have a first football game, because he's on the rules committee for the NCAA and the NFL or something. They wanted the rules explained for the first game of football, real American tackle football in England. They sent him over there to explain the rules to the press. He's my advisor now, and he's kind of why I'm here. He broke this down really well. Honest, he's in charge here. Everything's going good. I just can't believe it. And we got this all figured out. Look at what changed. It wasn't only those banking laws. And this is something that these people need to hear about, because this professor that I'm submitting this to, she is the PhD, the doctor in charge of women's study here, that plans, like, they got a conference for this is Women's Month here in the country, and they're celebrating it by having, do you have questions about cramps and menstruation? And I could get extra credit if I go, Randy, but I'm not going to go. I'll tell you that right now. So,
well, it's good to be in a position where you don't require that additional credit. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the person, you know, Dr. Liebrig, who I'm presenting this to, and I think I'll get an A. 1893 was an economic depression. It caused political realignments. The Democrats lost and were kept out of any position of power in the Senate, the Congress, or presidency for 20 years. Hoarding species, rejecting paper notes. It was during the Gilded Age. How is money going to be printed from then on out? Everything was affected. That caused, they thought they could prevent the later bank runs. I would have to say that, let's see, how do I quit sharing the, well, I'm just going to wrap it up here. You can look at the infinity thing there. The Panic of 93, the Cloud City, the insider trading. Dr. Liebrig, I think it's time that we look at history more suspiciously. Thank you so much.
I think I almost
hope
said
you give me an
amen,
A.
hallelujah. So that's
Yeah, when you look at, the 1893, the 14 years, now it's 07. 5 years later, it'll be the sinking of, the Titanic, the year, before,
Peggy inherits all her money.
the money cartel. Yeah, it's, those are interesting times and moving, much in the same sort of fashion that things progress, in this day and age. Just a lot of strange events,
So
just keep, and not just a series of them, but it's like nonstop.
yeah, this page is up just as I wanted to show you that the Guggenheims are, they're married into other. You ever heard of these Rothschilds?
I believe I have I think I do recognize that
Yeah,
name.
because one of them was later vice president of the United States. He wasn't elected.
Yeah.
He wasn't elected, and neither was the president who appointed him vice president. He wasn't elected either. That president's name was Gerald Ford. He was in office because Tricky Dick Richard Nixon, first vice president, got arrested or was going to be arrested.
Watergate?
Nope. This was after Watergate or before Watergate. But his first vice president got in.
Agnew?
Yep, Spiro Agnew. He said, "You got to go," and so they replaced him with Gerald Ford, who rumor has it is being blackmailed because of requesting magazines you shouldn't request from the CIA, and the CIA showing up at his door and said, "Now you work for us." His first assignment was get elected to Congress so he could be put in the nick of time onto the Warren Commission for the JFK non-investigation. Blah 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 blah. And then he appointed Rockefeller or Rothschild. Oh, I think it was a Rockefeller. I might have had these Ashkenazi who married the Guggenheim families confused. Oh,
Yeah. Rockefeller, yes.
there I go. I'm going to be accused of just stereotyping. And I even said earlier, don't stereotype old people that have hooked noses. Well, I implied it. Anyway.
Oh, well.
Maybe these guys are related to the Rockefellers. Sometimes we say the names wrong.
Yeah, but yes, still, it doesn't change, the story from not being interesting.
Well, I hope it's interesting because that same panic of 1893 also led to, as they said, it would have, political ramifications. It led to the People's Party, also known as the Populist Party, or simply the Populists. It was a left-wing farmers who wanted to start their own political party to say,
you're treating us like crap, and you're changing everything into industrial and not even letting us save enough food to feed our family, kind of like today. That was going on in the late 1800s. Also, the famous Democrat William Jennings Bryan, the guy who ran for president in 1896, 1900, and 1908, big part of history with the Scopes monkey trial and things like that. It was during the
Okay.
Gilded Age. Also, the populist roots lay with what they called the Farmers Alliance. Look, they had their own free trade thing that goes back to all the way back to 1875. So it had just started, it just in the nick of time. This most good for the most people. It seemed like an early form of communism, but it, it wasn't going to float here. Somehow they wanted the greenback, and the earlier third party wanted fiat money. So this, what we're living under now, is not really, like they just thought of that at Bretton Woods in 1945. Since Satan has this plan, but God is in control, what do we know? Before I move on, I must know what we know. What do we know? Just these guys are setups. Hey, this guy was, I always liked this trade unionist, union socialist. There's not, do you think there's something wrong with wanting to form a union, Randy?
Well, yeah, organized labor isn't the worst idea, especially against all these tyrants that were, the barons.
It's like looking in a mirror. Yeah. Yeah. Labor, people are going to be like, hey,
Especially, when you had so many children.
Exactly, because of the
And
nuclear family. Notice how they even want to
the
make
labor
that
force.
the biblical family should be a term, because I think I've shown there is no atomic nuclear theory. It's all made up. They were anti-modern and nativist, some of them. I think they like that usually means they like to run around naked or something. Oh no, this is in the political policy of promoting protecting the interest of native born. But they usually, like white people in Colorado, go like, we've been here, my family moved here in 1890, so we're natives. You other guys are tourists. And they don't like tourists.
Instead of the children being in the normal schools, they were trying to, help the family by being part of the, generating the cash flow, to improve, their living standards, and then, and this is about the same time, I don't know, the orphan trains had to been,
They definitely around that set from by 1873 they were running. But let's see here. I'll continue with the Populist Party, because this was the founding of it. After the war, Eastern financial establishment strongly favored a return to the gold standard. We're going to fight about that on and on again. Hard money, bimetallism. The name Kellogg just, when I think of Kellogg's, I think of those poor children being raised by Ellen White in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I just wonder why she adopted them. If there must be no relation to this Kellogg family. He was in the dry goods, and those Kellogg's ended up being manipulated into introducing sugar into the first cereals for breakfast. So, following the Panic of 1837, so another panic, Horace Greeley, Go West, Young Man, labor and capital. It's always going to be about how can we stop these people from taking advantage from us and letting us, live week to week by the paycheck. I'm glad I
well, yeah,
never.
that was the normal, yeah, that all part of the normalization.
It's one thing for me to be in the situation I am now where I gave all the money back to God and I've lived poor, but it was so kind of him to let me be rich until the second vision and the whole go and be this new prophet thing, to not ever had to worry about money for most of my adult family, raising my 4 children in the same house for 25 years. It seems like a dream that most people,
Yeah,
would
to do
find hard
well
to
and live
believe.
comfortably and not, have to be worried or, I mean, it's relatively stress free when you're,
Yeah,
not up to your neck in debt,
exactly. And
no
I
doubt.
did well. I did well with my wife's help, as have you. No one, I am not claiming to have done as well as you spiritually or
Right.
financially. People would freak out if they knew you're as rich physically as you are spiritually, because you don't, you're very, I would say they would describe it as very unpretentious if they knew how you could live if we didn't. Hang out all the time.
Well, yeah. As far as counting your blessings, yeah, everyone has their own, list of what they are thankful for, no
Yeah.
doubt. But that where the blessings flow from is what um, that needs to be get the most recognition. Where
What
do
have
they
we-
come?
how long have we been going here?
75 6 minutes,
We're gonna
76
wrap
minutes.
it up. I gotta get
Yeah.
about 20 more minutes out of you, brother. Hold on. Oh shoot, where was I? Oh, I have to. The Kellogg's, the Guggenheims, the Leadville, all of that. The Panic, the Edward Kellogg, the new monetary systems, the only means for securing respective rights of labor and property, you know, is for protecting public from financial revulsions or this or that, but counting on the government, don't do it. It's always bad. Upcoming, a big part of my life has, been involved with living in the suburbs. That house I mentioned before was in the suburb of Lake Zurich, a northwest suburb of Chicago. I worked in Barrington. We tracked politics. It was either, you know, again, I worked for one of the most famous men in Christian education, Dr. Paul D. Lindstrom. And we were all over this. And she was elected. She hung out with cannibals. Well, she got elected as the first black woman senator ever. She celebrated by going to hang out with cannibals in Africa. That's no shit. And just a whole bunch of
Oh, you mean she was bringing them the gospel?
wrong. And so Peter Fitzgerald, a Roman Catholic, spent half his fortune to become the first Republican senator elected, in a long time, and finally defeated her. And then he quit. After, we don't need you, baby. We got him, becoming the first Republican to win a Senate race in Illinois since Charles Percy 20 years earlier. After he said, I've got her out of the way, I'm done. Known as a maverick, he retired and was succeeded by.
Barack?
You ever heard of him?
I, let's see. Did he have that issue with that birth certificate? Is that the guy?
He is a known homosexual who married a man that I have said someday may be in charge of the United Nations, and his male wife will come out, and they'll be hailed as heroes because they had to do it that way because the world hadn't changed enough. But it's changed enough now to let the world know that those two, I was saying this in 2015. Yeah, I think he's a fake. I think he's a known homosexual.
Yeah.
And he's suspicious family life.
Like Pizzagate or what?
No. And that's one of the reasons I kind of admire him. He likes, well, I guess the 18.
Well, I'm
18
talking about Obama, wasn't he?
yeah, no, Obama likes teenage boys, 20 to 18 to 20-year-olds.
Pizzagate. Wasn't that what?
No. The Pizzagate people were they like to kill the babies. I don't think that Obama's ever been, yeah, it's bad enough. He's a setup, but he didn't ask to be, hey, set me up. He was born and said, you're going to do this. So, yeah, it's all fake. Fakeity do da, fakeity a.
So where'd they get the children from?
There's bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, Randy. It's like, you really think that's Joe Biden?
I know it. I'm making dialogue here.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I pulled this up. I think I described this wrong, whereas another disease that I just closed out, and I said, the one I previously described where people are turning to stone is this one. Fibrosplasia ossificans progressive. So it's in people to turn to stone, man. Ask Guy, he knows. He knows all about it. It's like looking in a mirror. Hola, me llamo Paco. This is that thing I worked on in the 80s. The Lord had me in the right position to, be on somebody that worked on the parallel azimuth direction system that they later changed, said, well, that won't work because we're using triangulation, this parallel azimuth direction system. So they changed it to GPS. Anybody want to search my records and see if I'm lying about what I did in the military? You will have wasted your money and only I will thank you later. We don't have time to get into the year 1666 and how that's when they started in one calendar anyway, things that led to the Freemasons. There we go, Randy. I got to get over to the studio and do some sculpting. What are you going to do?
Well, I got the angels in my responsibility for another, I don't know, hour or about another 75 minutes, I would think. Take the hound for a hike, and then John will get home from being the barmaid.
I got about 3 hours before I can, they'll close the studio down, and I have to do a couple of things over there. Besides that, I'm waiting on the book that I ordered, The Craft, to come in, and that'll give us some fresh insight into the history of the Illuminati. I want to thank everybody. We did not have time. Thank you all with moderators like Luther the Truther. You know him as Yaswill Soaring. We don't have to worry about checking the comments all the time and stuff. So thank you all. It's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. We are never going to tell you anything else. Why would we? Trying to prove that we're called and do indeed have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arriva.
Happy Easter to all.
Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.